My name is Todd Hall, and I'm director of the University of Oxford's China Center. It's my pleasure to welcome you once again to another episode of One Big Thing in China Research, our series in which we ask researchers to present something from their recent work. Today's guest is Dr. Luc Pety, who is a senior researcher at the Danish Institute for International Studies and lead senior research fellow at the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies at the University of Oxford. Dr. Pety has published widely in the New York Times, Financial Times, The Guardian, Foreign Affairs and Foreign Policy. And he's also written a book titled The New Kings of Crude, China, India, and the Global Struggle for Oil in Sudan and South Sudan. But today he'll be talking about something different and something new that he's working on. And so, Dr. Pety, thank you for joining us. And what is your one big thing?
Thanks. My one big thing is that we're being bombarded with media stories, opinion pieces, and research on the strategic competition between the United States and China. And I think that this distorts our understanding of Chinese global influence. Even if China surpasses the United States in economic and military power moving forward, it's not destined to dominate the future. This fixation on the US-China rivalry has numbed our thinking towards how the rest of the world is instrumental in shaping the global economy and global affairs.
And so what is it that's led you to reach this conclusion?
Well, the US-China relationship is certainly the most important bilateral relationship in the world. Together, they make up 40% of the global economy. They command the world's two most powerful militaries, and they have impressive technological capabilities. But we've lost sight of the significance of the other 60% of the global economy, the other major militaries, tech leaders, and cultural hubs that are shaping global issues such as overcoming the COVID pandemic, addressing climate change, the direction of free trade, and how new technologies will shape our futures. And when I place the spotlight on China's relationship with the rest of the world, particularly so-called middle powers, such as Japan, India, Germany, France, the UK, and others, we see that China has fraying relations with these countries. New trade and investment barriers are coming up between China and these countries, and there are even rising security tensions. So these other major powers are recognizing that engaging China in some areas of trade, investment, finance, and technology can actually threaten their own economic competitiveness and their foreign and defense autonomy. Now, China certainly wields considerable power in the world. It's advanced its relations and influence, particularly in Africa, Latin America, and developing Asia. But even in these regions, we see China's interests facing new risks and challenges. So rather than the US-China rivalry alone, it's China's relations with the rest of the world that I think will determine the extent of its global influence. And how China's leadership chooses to project China's power is really eliciting pushback from others that can undermine the trajectory of its future rise. Now, this doesn't mean that America's dominance will somehow be restored, but that there's a diversity of power in the world. China's part of that, but it's not necessarily destined to become a dominant power.
But does this mean we're moving to something that's more like two blocks, or does this mean we're moving to something that's more multipolar, or even something that's a new model that we haven't seen?
I think in the past decade or so, both Asian and Western scholars and commentators have done some important work on breaking down stereotypes of power in the world that predominantly see the US and Europe and the transatlantic relationship as central. They've done a good job of pointing out that China and the rest of Asia is once again rising, is once again significant to the global economy and global affairs. But in attacking these stereotypes, I think some of these thinkers have erected new myths in their place. Firstly, that China's rise as a dominant global superpower is not preordained. But secondly, that the West and Asia are somehow divided, that we are entering a world of two blocks, a new Cold War. But what I see through my research is that many countries, particularly the middle powers, but also many developing countries, some even are authoritarian political systems, they still want international rules. They still want predictability in the global order. And these connections extend between the West and Asia. So, for example, India, Japan, Australia, and the United States are developing an important new partnership called the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue on Defense and Strategic Cooperation. The EU and Japan are engaging in new free trade agreements. They're working together on digital global governance. Tokyo has played a really strong role in advancing trade agreements, even after the US has stepped out of them. ASEAN, Southeast Asian countries, have been instrumental in pushing ahead a big new investment or trade deal in Asia called the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So we see leadership and coming from different places on different issues, and that shows this diversity of power that's out there. Not blocks, not a U.S. dominance, not a Chinese dominance, but a sort of a multilateral system that is still adjusting to changes, to relative changes in power.
So I take it you're not a fan of the phrase "a new Cold War."
No, I'm not. I think it's not necessarily something that will come to pass. I'm hoping that we can recognize that there are still a lot of commonalities between countries around the world. If you just take the case of Southeast Asia, you have a diversity of power there. You don't have sort of blocks being formed. Southeast Asian countries are often called sort of the backyard of China because China has become the largest trading partner there. But at the same time, it's Japan that's providing the most finance to the region, and it's the United States that's still the largest investor in ASEAN states. So none of these countries, or very few of them, are interested in planting their flag firmly in the U.S. or in China. None of them are really interested in following in the orbit of either the American or Chinese system. Instead, they want a diversity of trading partners, a diversity of options for finance, and a diversity of investment.
Well, thank you so much. That's fascinating. So if people want to know more, where should they look?
You can read my new book called How China Loses: The Pushback Against Chinese Global Ambitions from Oxford University Press.
Very good. So thank you so much again for joining us. And I want to thank everyone else for tuning in and watching. And if you are interested for more content, both episodes like this or other things and other events that are happening at the University of Oxford China Center, please do visit our website. Thank you.